Hello and welcome to the I Can Do podcast with Benjamin Lee. We're here to talk about tips and strategies to have an I Can Do mindset. Life is what you put into it. Get the most you can. Here's your host, Benjamin Lee.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of I Can Do. I'm Benjamin Lee. Super excited to be here with another fantastic guest here in 2025. Today we have Mina Satori. Mina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Benjamin.
Yes, you are quite welcome, and thank you for your interest in being on the podcast. So we're going to get started here. There's a lot of different questions that I want to ask you. I'd love for you just to get started to introduce yourself. You can go back as far as you want to, but kind of catch us up to speed with how you became a psychologist. You're an ontological coach, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and just give the audience a little bit of information about who you are and what got you on this path and journey.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to just share a brief background, starting from, I don't know, where could I say, college, perhaps, maybe, where I didn't know what to do with my life. I felt, that I wanted to graduate college and didn't know what area, field to focus on. So I just picked psychology, just so I can have a degree. This is the honesty. But it also interested me to study psychology because I've always been fascinated with the way human behavior is. And it was also a way for me to find answers for myself. I was depressed and I lacked self-esteem, and I had a lot of things growing up with, of course, family life wasn't very stable and there was a lot of dysfunction there. So I believe, there was also mental illness there as well. So psychology was a way for me to find some answers for myself, but also to be able to help other people. Anyways, as I progressed in college, I graduated with the degree in psychology and actually criminal justice, because then I started wanting to pursue forensic psychology and really understand, how people, their modus operandi, the MOs behind committing crimes. But then I realized that wasn't the path I wanted to take. So actually a DA that I interviewed talked me out of it. He said, "This is a grim world. You do not want to be in this. There's a lot of darkness in here."
Wow.
He basically talked me out of it, which I bless his heart. I know he was trying to save me. And I ended up going into working in the mortgage industry. While I was in college, I was a loan processor for this broker. And then I moved on to work in corporate as an AE, account executive. And I was doing very well successfully in that industry for quite many years, 6-7 years or longer. And then the mortgage crash happened. And that period in time, I was a newlywed, and I had a beautiful penthouse suite condo a mile away from the ocean. I had, done a fair amount of success there for myself to have own a home at age 30. And then all of that got lost and taken away when I lost my job in the mortgage industry. And
so is that going back to like 2008, 2009 when the crash happened?
2007 was when the mortgage crash began to happen. And then 2008 was when the recession hit with all of the foreclosures and people losing jobs and homes. And so I was one of those. I was one of those people. Thankfully, I was able to walk away, not in such severe financial debt as many of my colleagues and coworkers did, but it still had a great impact on me. And I was lost. For about a year, I schlepped around and we went down to one income. My husband at that time had to carry the burden and the pressure of, paying a big mortgage. And we continued to sink into debt. And there were no jobs as available because the job jobs were flooded. The people were all looking for work. And a year goes by after not figuring it out on my own and being stuck. Thankfully, I was invited to a seminar where the woman was a life coach, and she offered her complimentary session to the crowd, and I took it. I figured, I'm going to talk to her and see if she could maybe help me. And sure enough, instantly after that first meeting, I signed up. I, did the coaching program with her, and within 5 months, I overcame so many things and cleared away so many things that I couldn't believe how beneficial it was. And originally I hired her to help me with my coaching career and figuring out what coaching path I wanted, career path I wanted to take. And then she offered the coaching as a career. So I thought about it and I thought, yeah, you know what? I could see myself doing this. I wanted to own my own business. I wanted to have the flexibility and freedom to work when I want to, and to be able to help people, because that's in my nature, to be of service. And so I signed up for the coach training program, and within 1 year I graduated. It was a year-long program. I received over 220 hours of coach training that year.
Nice.
I already had clocked in over 100 coaching hours that first year, and that's where it all started. And so from there, it's just been history, and I've never looked back. It's one of the best decisions that I ever made at that time.
Wow, that's awesome. So I got a lot of questions. Let me go back to when you went to that free seminar. What led you to go to that workshop and to eventually get to that point? What led you to actually say, yes, I'm going to go visit that?
It was actually a friend that invited me. She had heard about it.
Okay.
And she said, come on, let's go together. And it was in LA. And, we lived in Orange County, so it was a bit of a drive. Yeah. So it would be, better for us to carpool there.
Yeah.
That was really the reason.
Nice. So did she pull you and basically help you, since it sounded like you were kind of like in a funk with the job loss and the house and all of that. So you had her to say, okay, let's go to this together.
Yeah, because she was also a coworker of mine. We were both in the mortgage industry.
Okay.
And so she knew we were both like kinship, that we understood each other as far as our struggles and challenges. We were both, in a place where we could, use some help, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, that shows something, I think, about you as well, where you're willing to say yes. I can remember when we were living in Columbia, Missouri, I had a family at the congregation where we were attending, and Dave Ramsey was going to be in Kansas City, and he's like, hey, you want to go to this thing? And I said, no, I don't. But looking back, I was like, oh man, I should have said yes, because I ended up using his content and going through his financial piece and things like that. So I think there's something about being able to say yes and just trying something out. I'm curious next, if there were one or two maybe limiting beliefs that coach over that span of time, I think you said over like 5 months, helped you with kicking out or getting rid of, what were some of those limiting beliefs or things that were holding you back, Mina?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share. There were a lot.
Share as much as you want. That's fine.
I'll just take a few.
Okay.
The biggest one was the fear of making a decision. That was my biggest.
What was the fear behind it?
I believe it could have been from, many years of childhood where I felt that I wasn't given the opportunity to make decisions and make mistakes. I think that was a big one. And so, of course, later as an adult, I was really challenged and always thought that I was going to make a mistake before I even made a choice to do it. Which is silly. I mean, when you think about it, it's like, I haven't done that thing yet. And yet here I am being afraid of doing it. So, that was a huge one. Learning to just not think so much, overthink something, and just go do it. Because when you do it, you will learn something from it. And now I understand that mistakes are by design there for us to learn how to do something. And so it teaches us things like maybe we're not supposed to be doing this path, or maybe we're supposed to do it better this way or that way. Just trying something is better than nothing, right?
Hmm.
And I believe that wholeheartedly now. It's like, you just take action and you go do it, and then you'll figure it out. If you
Yep.
haven't, if you didn't, do it right, correct the first time, you just keep doing it until you do get it. Just like any sport where there's practice and you hit the shot, and you got to keep practicing. You got to keep practicing until you become good at it. So
Hmm.
that was a really big one that I walked away
Mm.
with, that my coach helped guide me through.
Did you, after that, if I can, did you, how did she help you, he or she help you next? Was it like, okay, this week you're gonna, let's see if you can make 5 or 6 decisions, or like, what did that look like? It was like micro steps or micro decisions. So I think that would be good for the audience, and maybe how you coach people today who may have that same fear for whatever the cause may be behind it, of getting in the habit of, making these decisions, and then, whatever the outcome may be, handling it from there.
Yes, that's very in line. Yes. My coach, Gabriella, she was amazing, very tough. She wouldn't let
Mm.
me get away with anything. But at the same time, she was really, holding a loving space for me. And, but she would challenge me, and she would say, go out there for this week and, make 10 decisions, whatever. It could be just something as simple as picking out a meal at a restaurant. If you're indecisive and you're sitting there and you don't know what to order,
Yep.
just make that effort to just make a decision and move forward with it, and not regret the decision that you make. That was, part of that process too, is to not regret it afterwards, which I
Mhm.
think a lot of times people do get stuck in that as well. And
Right.
so, yeah, there's a lot of various different ways that we can practice getting ourselves out of our comfort zone. And it really was making me feel uncomfortable doing it, of
Mhm.
course, initially. But then after doing it a few times, it became the new comfortable, right? You became used to that. And so they say it takes 21 days to create a new habit. So you got to keep doing it until you get to a point you reach to where it just becomes an automatic and you don't even think about it. And it just
Mhm.
becomes that new you. And so
Mhm.
there was another one too, that really big one that I want to share is the fear of rejection. That was another really big one for me too. Asking for something and getting a no. I was definitely afraid of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people fall into that. I've been guilty of that, but what's the worst thing that can happen? That's one of the things I try to tell myself, but I love to hear more from you for sure.
yeah. And so again, if you're looking at something really big that you're afraid to do because you're going to get rejected or get a no, start with the smaller things first. So my coach would have me go into like a grocery store and pile a bunch of food into my cart and make it really big. Put a big pile of like all these groceries in the cart, and then go find a line at the register where there's a bunch of people, and go at the front of the line and ask them, hey, do you mind if I cut in front of you?
I love that.
Oh my gosh, that was the hardest one.
Okay, how many times did you do it, and what did people say? Did they say yes or no?
I actually could only do it one time, and I didn't feel good about filling up my cart. I just did like a partial, and believe it or not, they said yes. So it's just like, oh my gosh.
There you go. There you go. That's awesome. That's great.
Right. And then, but the other part of this exercise too is that if you do get a no, have zero energy or attachments to it.
Okay.
Just walk away and just say, okay, no worries. I'm not attached to this outcome. And I
Mm.
think that right there, if somebody can just allow themselves to not be so attached to the idea of rejection, and just understand that it could be a reason outside of them, meaning that it's not about them. It's about whatever else is going on with that person, and just seeing it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. No, I appreciate you sharing those stories. It was interesting because I was on Instagram, and there's some account that has like old video clips of Brian Tracy, I believe that's his name, and he mentioned something about the 21 days because I did a talk last year, and somebody had asked me, when it comes to habits, is it 21 days? Is it 90 days? And I was like, I really don't know. I don't know where this number came from, but he mentioned in that talk, Mina, he's like, they would use the example of how a chicken would sit on an egg for 21 days before it would hatch.
Mm.
They would just stay on that egg for 21 days, and they would do it by faith. Just sit there. Nothing's happening day 1 through 10, day 15, day 18. But on day 21, it hatches. And so he used that as an example of if you just see something through, kind of like what you're talking about with these 21 days. So I was like, I wonder if that's where this 21-day habit came from. So you made me think about that. And I was talking to my barber. We put together a challenge of trying to collect 30 no's in a certain time period, very similar to what you're doing here, where you're forced to talk to people, and it's still hard at times when you do get a no, depending on what that no or what that ask really is. Do you have any tips, or did your coach give you any tips of handling that rejection, of just saying, okay, thank you, or just kind of processing that? Because I know sometimes that can be pretty challenging for people to do.
Yeah, great question. As far as the 21 days, I don't know either where it came from. But the egg thing sounds great to me. As far as rejections, I think there's two parts to it. The first part is learning to be okay with getting a no. And just like your example, my coach also challenged me the same thing of seeking out places where you know that you're going to get a no answer, so that you become accustomed to not taking it personally. And then the second part is if when you do, if you get a no, then how to best handle it really is that detachment, just choosing in that moment to detach from that.
Okay.
And it's a conscious choice, allowing yourself to not be tripped up over beginning to go into like making it mean something about you.
Mm-hmm.
Not allowing yourself to take it personally. And you just say, okay, thank you. The other piece of it is, so I guess there's three things. The third part is sometimes a no today doesn't mean it's a no tomorrow.
Mm.
So you may get a no today, for example, on a job. Somebody really wants this job, and they didn't get it, for example. There could be an opportunity at another time. If the person really wants it, perhaps maybe they could say, well, thank you for this time with me to explore this opportunity together. But if it's not today, can I follow up in 3 months or 6 months from now? And asking that person and getting permission from them to follow up. Most often they'll say, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because
like that. Yeah,
anything could change. Yeah, anything could change. They could go hire somebody else that they thought was a better candidate, and then 2 weeks later they release them, and they're back on the search again. You just never know.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, those are great pieces of advice and guidance. That's fantastic. So fast forward now 5 months working with Gabriella, if I remember correctly. How long did it take you to make the decision that you were going to just go all in with coaching?
Oh, it's been a while ago, but it was really quick. It didn't take me very long. I think maybe, probably a week or two or less. I don't know. I think in that moment when I really sat on it and I slept on it, and then I realized that, yeah, you know what, I'm going to go and do this. And of course, it was scary too at first. I also had, a husband that I had to, you know, uh, to talk to about this, and you know, just just getting his support around it. He was really supportive. He thankfully, he was very supportive in my decision. But I know that a lot of people, especially when you're married, you have a partner and you make decisions together.
Hmm.
But in my case, thankfully, I was able to go do it, because it was a huge investment,
Yeah.
and it was still a risk to take for me, not knowing anything about how to coach someone, you know, and
Yeah.
also from, me overcoming my own insecurities around where I am in my life, and, that I still didn't have everything together. Right. But the nice thing about that experience was that the coach training was also them coaching me. I had a one-on-one coach every week that I would meet with to work
Mm.
on my stuff so that I can clear more of things out of my way in order to be fully present to my clients. And
Hmm.
that was truly transformative. That experience was just incredible.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the mark of a great coach as well. A coach who's not willing to receive coaching, I don't know, may have to take a double look with that, but there's something about understanding the value of coaching. Let me ask you a question about coaching. Did you get certified in the information you sent me through the International Coaching Federation? Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. What's the distinction for the audience between coaching, because there's a lot of different coaches today, versus like professional counseling? So, can you share just like what's the distinction between like a coach versus like someone who's a counselor, or, which one that a person may actually need? Walk us through that.
Yeah. So let me start with counseling first. Counseling, and I also want to add to that therapy.
Hmm.
Um, they are designed to help a person with some of the past challenges and traumas that they may have. I believe that modality can be very useful for somebody who may need some more professional support around some of those traumas. Um, and a counselor typically also will guide them on some things, the suggestions and things to do, versus a coach, a true coach, in the sense of like the true definition of what a coach is. A true coach is supposed to guide and empower the individual, because the philosophy is that the person has already within them all the answers that they need. And the coach's job is to simply just bring it out to the surface for them
Gotcha. Hmm.
through powerful questioning, through active listening, and mirroring back what they're saying, so that the person can really understand and hear themselves, and also to see their own blind spots.
Gotcha. Mm.
That's in a nutshell the differences.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So I'm really curious now, Mina. Ontological coaching. When I first saw that, I was like, I don't know what that is. Walk me through that and walk the audience through that, and why this path of coaching. Break that down for us if you can.
Yeah, so first I want to start with the definition of ontology.
Okay.
Ontology means the study of being.
Okay.
And there are philosophers that go way back to like Galileo and Socrates that have mentioned this type of um, way of being, I guess you could say. And so this is nothing new. And basically, ontological coaching really is designed to help a person on understanding how their being and what their belief systems are, what their philosophies are, um, you know, what are their ideas and opinions, and then taking that and seeing how that correlates with the things that people do. So in
Mm,
other words, the way we are being dictates the way we do things and how we proceed in life. So
hmm
if a person is, you know, perhaps I should say like doom and gloom type person where they're always looking for the negatives and think that the shoe's going to drop or think that the worst case scenario is going to happen, then that person may decide to not do something in fear of the worst case thing happening, right?
Gotcha.
And whereas on the other side, if a person is believing that in themselves, believing that this will all work out, believing in faith, and believing that um, things are meant to happen for a reason, then they will also have a different set of actions or things that they would do that would correlate to that.
Okay.
And so what I'm trained as an ontological coach is to really question the person on how they're showing up in life
Mm,
and what are their thoughts? What are those things that are running in the background that is driving them to make those decisions, to make those choices that they're making? And if
hmm
I see that they're not empowering, then I will bring that up to them and I will coach them on that and
hmm
invite them to see it another way,
Gotcha.
in a
Okay.
way that is more empowering for that person.
Okay. So
So
would this also entail like a person's worldview, if it's Christianity or if it's atheism or something else? And also kind of dealing with their standards, maybe even like standards for themselves and how they're viewing themselves, or just, okay, well, you say you have these standards, but you're not aligning to your own standards. Maybe there's something that we need to kind of rework, or maybe they need to reshift or understand that there's some kind of blind spot there. Would it involve some of those aspects as well?
absolutely.
Okay.
What I hear you pointing to is the congruency. Is it
Mm,
congruent? Because if they have a certain set of belief systems, but yet they're demonstrating something different on the other side, let's see that incongruency and bridge that gap and bring it together.
mm.
So
What do you,
yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that. So if, for example, like uh, let's say somebody is really big on you know knowing what to do, and says that they have all the answers and they know how to do something, but then they're still stuck and they're still not doing it. Well, what is really actually going on? Let's take a look and see. Um, is there a story behind all of this? Because it all comes back to childhood as well. When we look at it, we really start beginning to peel the layers back. We see that there's this story that this person was brought up to believe that they can't get anything right, or they don't know what they're doing, and all this stuff. And so there's just this like story that's running in the background that can affect a person in their life.
Mm. Yeah, I think that answers the question I was going to ask, because we can often say, I know, I know, I know, but our actions are not aligning with that. So if we use an example for like weight loss, and obviously you're not going to go into all details with clients and things like that, have you noticed then that the biggest gap between like their beliefs, and beliefs sometimes are not even the right standard either, because it could be a limiting belief, it could just be a false belief, something like that. So if I hear you correctly, it's often those stories that they're telling themselves, that's the reason why there is this gap between, well, this is their ideal, but this is where they're at, and now you're helping them get over that bridge with changing how that story may be.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So bringing them together so that there's a congruency between their story and the actions that they take in their lives that match. And that's a great example.
Gotcha. Okay. Hmm. Um, People often want to change, What do you tell your clients, and what advice and wisdom can you give to the audience? Because I think sometimes people think change just takes, it's going to take forever for me to change this, Mina, or to change this thought, or to change this belief system. What advice would you give to a person who may even be struggling with the very idea, if you're sitting with them saying, well, there is something that you can do and you can change this, and maybe you can change it even really, really fast? What are your thoughts with that?
I believe that it all comes from where the person is in the first place. So that means that you take it one step back, take it one step further back. You'll see that even that thought of thinking that it's going to take a long time for a person to change is what's preventing them from having that. It's what is that story, again, how they're being. If you really pull the curtain back, you keep pulling it back, and then you realize, oh, that right there is what's blocking me. If I'm going to keep saying that it's going to take me a long time, well, then of course I'm going to be stuck in this place forever.
That's right.
Right? But if I come back to it instead and say, no, I will get this done and I will get it fast. I don't know how, but I believe that it will, because it's important to me. And you have to also realize that the reasons behind it have to be strong enough in order for somebody to change a habit. And this is something that is repeated over and over again by some of the greatest minds. You'll see Napoleon Hill talk about this. You'll hear, Warren Buffett even talk about it. Tony Robbins talks about it. And Brian Tracy talks about it, is the idea that you want to put yourself in a place where you will succeed, and believe it firmly that you will. And you may not know all the answers right now. You may not know how to achieve it right now, but just having that faith and belief first can really make a huge impact in the outcomes and results that you get.
Set the stage for us then, to build upon this idea of the habits and getting us into that position.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be how we're structuring our days? Because obviously it's going to our mental, to the mindset as well. But walk us through, what might that look like with setting ourselves up for that success, to really not drill down, but to really instill these beliefs so that we can, take those necessary steps. Is it certain habits that you've implemented, or maybe it's even a trend or a pattern that you've seen with clients that has really helped unlock after they say, okay, I got to change the story? What will that look like, and maybe some tangible ways or steps?
Yeah, great. So once they've identified what that new story is, first you want to let go of the old story. So
Okay.
making a conscious choice. I believe that awareness is the opportunity to change. You must first have the awareness around where that disempowering story is. And once you recognize it, then you make that conscious choice, because you're bringing it up to the surface level where you're now aware of it. Before, it was running in the background, because we have so many thoughts that are running in the subconscious. And the idea is to bring those subconscious thoughts into the conscious awareness of a person. And then they have the ability to do something about it. So then the next step is to say and make that choice. I'm going to let this story go. This is the old story I'm no longer wanting to carry anymore. But then you have to have something to replace it with. So then you think about, well, what would be that ideal you? What would be that ideal situation that you want to have? And really come up with a great story for yourself. Okay. And even write it down and post it up so you see it on a regular basis. And you're looking at it. If it's on your bathroom mirror, that's a great place to put it, because you see it every day. And from there, how can you take that new story and bring it to life into your reality? And you think about all the different ways, you brainstorm of how I can be this ideal person. So for example, let's take confidence. Confidence is a big one. People believe that confidence is something that you achieve from the outside. But what if it's not? What if it's something that's in you first? Then from there, how can you show up as that confident self that you're desiring? And what would that confident self be doing day to day? You write those down. You list all those things. Well, a confident person would be a leader. A confident person will make decisions on the spot. A confident person will do this, this, and this, right? We can come up with a lot of examples. If you're stuck with that, well, look at some of the people around you, or even a public figure that you see that is, top 10 most confident person you've ever known. And look at the qualities of that person and see how they are living, how they're making choices, and take those as examples of how you can apply some of those things into your own life, right? Looking at some of those examples is really helpful, because I know as soon as you think about them and you look at some of the people around you that you see are very successful and they're confident, what are they doing? How do they show up in life? How are they being? And you can take some of those and model it. And that part, of course, takes practice and dedication and commitment. And you do it on a daily basis, and you continue to keep practicing until you have been able to live that way on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, I love that. I do some public speaking coaching, Mina, and I was talking to someone here recently, and they were talking about, well, sometimes celebrities have like alter egos and things like that, and how might that work, like with speaking and stuff? Should I go like have like this alter ego and things like that? My advice was, no, just be yourself. That was my first piece of information, right? We have to be comfortable in our own skin. And in times past, I've liked that idea of like an alter ego and things like that. You can see I like superheroes and things like that, but at the same time, it's like you're still that same person. And you're talking about confidence, and there's something to be said about. Tom Brady just mentioned this in a podcast I was listening to. Colin Cowherd, he was talking to him, and he was just talking about this quarterback with the Washington Commanders who made it to the NFC Championship as a rookie. He's like, some quarterbacks need like reps and those passes to gain that confidence, but he's like walking into the game already with that confidence, and that's what I thought about as you were talking. Do you have any thoughts on this idea of, well, if my alter ego person will, ask for that no or ask for that promotion? What are your thoughts with that, being a coach and having a psychology background?
Well, I think, if you're making a really great point. Some people fall into the idea of thinking that they have to achieve something in order to gain confidence. And so your example of that person, that athlete going on the field already feeling confident, that right there alone is an energy that he put out to say he's not accepting anything less. And so, when somebody wants to get past that hurdle, and if it needs to be that you do have to take on an alter ego, then do it.
Okay.
Because remember, there's all this talk about, I'm sure you've heard, fake it until you make it. And it's about becoming that person that you want to be. How do you get there? Well, you have to start beginning to be and act like that person that you're wanting to be. And it's gonna feel uncomfortable. You're gonna feel like an imposter at first, initially, because that's not who you are initially. That's not part of your core being and who you are. And yet I believe that we can change who we are. We can change ourselves overnight. It can happen in a moment's notice if the person chooses to. Again, just making that conscious decision to say, this is going to be my new me, and then pursuing it and following through with it. And so if you have to use that alter ego, I think, why not? Yeah, you're gonna have to feel uncomfortable. That's what transformation is.
That's right. That's right.
Until you get to a point where you're not feeling uncomfortable anymore.
Yeah.
And then you could
Yeah.
also think about, like, what is it going to be like when I achieve this? Imagine yourself in that place. Put yourself in that state and get into the motions of it and feel it. Because that can also be a motivation and a driving force to allow yourself to give you permission to be able to move forward.
How do you, what tips or recommendations do you give, just touching on what you just said there about the getting into the emotions of that future state? Because I've gone back to Tony Robbins' book, and I think he said something similar to that. I think that's kind of a hard thing, right? Like where we have this like emotion, and maybe it's just through visualization where we're going over the goals so many times. But any tips or suggestions of like, how do we tap into having that an actual emotion of like, yes, I got that, or I finished the marathon, or I got the promotion, or I finished the book? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you mentioned Tony Robbins. And so
Mm-hmm.
Tony has this concept of stacking, he calls it, and where you stack a bunch of really, good things on top of one another. And you start with
Okay.
one and then you build on that. And when you do that and you start beginning to notice all the good things that you have, the qualities that you have and this and that, then you begin to start bringing yourself higher up into the emotion state that is going to, raise your emotions and your energy up. He also talks about the state. You change your state, then you can change your story, and vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. And so, you know, it goes hand in hand, I believe. And,
Okay.
and I think that first, if you have a story that you want to bring to life, to bring into your reality, um, do whatever it takes to get yourself into the feelings and the emotions around that.
Okay.
So if that means you gotta, first and foremost, get enough sleep,
Mm-hmm.
eat healthy, no processed foods and, junk food and fast food, right? You feed yourself some good food, healthy, nutritious food,
Mm-hmm.
and you exercise. And, all of those things that you do are going to help you to be in a better mood. And when you're in that better mood, then you're more open to that new story. Then you're
Okay.
going to be more open and receptive to believing and seeing that story, and you're going to get into those emotions. If somebody is depressed and they're not exercising, not eating, not getting enough sleep, it's going to be a challenge for them to be in that state or emotions that are congruent with that story.
Gotcha. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Let's move on to clients and your coaching. What would you say, Mina, or who would you say, I guess, would be like an ideal client for you? So, in other words, who are you looking to work with? What is that ideal client for you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I work with women entrepreneurs, leaders, and creatives to have work-life balance and to have a thriving business. And so, if there's, let's say, a woman that might have a business idea as well, or already has an established business and they want to take it to the next level, um, I coach them and I support them for them to be able to be fearless, basically, in their business and to be able to make a big difference and also live that lifestyle if they want to travel or have more time with their families.
Awesome. Awesome. That's fantastic. Um, I'm always curious. I love books. Um, what are you reading, or what book recommendations might you be able to give me in the audience?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of books that I read simultaneously. Um, Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect is a really great one. I would definitely recommend that to anybody.
Okay.
Yeah. And let's see, for relationships, there's a really great author named Susan Campbell. The book is called Getting Real. That's a really excellent book to help a person to communicate better with their partners and family too. These tools can be absolutely applied to any relationship. And I have so many books, I can't even remember all of them.
No, that's all good. I love it. I love it.
I mean, I've read like, Think and Grow Rich multiple times.
Yeah.
The Secret, and the classic ones from like even I have the really old, I think it's like it's a really old. It's like I found it in it was a part of a book collection of old classic books that it still has those blue binders. It's really old. The Power of Positive Thinking from Norman Vincent Peale.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so
I love finding things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I read some of those classics, and of course, I have to be careful when I open the pages. So
right.
I don't want to tear this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got great stuff in there.
Very nice.
There's also some really great ones. The Wim Hof method. I don't know if you're familiar with Wim Hof.
I am. So, are you doing cold therapy?
No, I don't do the cold therapy, although I'm sure I could benefit, but I like his Wim Hof breathing method.
The breathing method. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. What are you doing? Are you doing is it the box top breathing? I don't know if that's his method with the 4 in, holding it for 4, out 4, hold, or is it something different?
It is. It's the one where I just follow it. There's one on YouTube that I just put on and follow it. It's a guided one. And you do the deep breathing in, breathing out, and then you hold it for 15 seconds or hold it, release it and then hold and then take a breath.
That's right. Yeah.
And you do it for 3 rounds.
Gotcha.
And it only takes like 5 minutes.
You do that first thing in the morning?
Mm-hmm, I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really great one. I also do Vipassana meditation. That to me has been very helpful for many years. And if anybody's ever interested, it's a nonprofit global organization. It's all donation based, and it's through Vipassana, through Dhamma, and it's a 10-day meditation retreat. And they feed you, they house you, and you meditate for 10 days, and you come out of there like, wow, it's just a sound experience.
What was the biggest change that you saw when you came out of that after 10 days?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So with my eyes being closed for 10 days, when I came out and I came out of there and I was driving home, I swear, I think everything was like intergalactic bright colors. I'm like, wow, that tree is so green.
So you got to clarify. Okay, you said your eyes were closed for 10 days. What does that mean? Were you where was it dark?
Yeah.
Tell me what was that all about?
Yeah, our day would start 4 a.m. We had to get up, set our alarm, and get up at 4 a.m. and start to meditate for at least 2 hours before we would have breakfast. And we were not allowed to look at anybody. You're not allowed to look at anybody. So all you're doing is just looking down and you're walking and all you see are feet. And then you get to the cafeteria and you eat, and then you're not looking at anybody. You're not talking to anybody. You're just in your own self. And then you go into the group meditation and the lights are very dim, enough light to get in and out.
Wow.
And you're sitting there and you're literally sitting there for hours with your eyes closed and you're just meditating. Of course, there's breaks during the day. There's like a solid like hour to 3 hours of break during the day. And then you meditate all the way through till like 8 or 9 p.m. And then you go to sleep.
Wow.
And you do it all over again at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Were you able to consume caffeine or anything? Or is it just like a clean break from what you typically would do?
Yeah. So in that meditation, they do not want you to be drinking any coffee, caffeine. Of course, They have specific rules, even no use of other external things like, crystals or stones or tarot cards or anything like that.
Mm.
You cannot bring in. So for the sole purpose of giving this method a chance to see,
Mm.
how it can work for you.
Mm.
And so they take away they take away your phone and your devices and your car keys, and they lock
Wow.
it up, and
Whoa.
you will not see them until the 10th day.
Were you afraid when that first got started?
Mm, I have to say a lot of things don't really scare me.
Okay. That's
I
good.
just went in, I was like, okay, we'll see what happens, just kind of pretty open. I tend to be more open. I can go into a whole room of strangers and, start
Yeah.
having conversations with them, no problem.
Yeah.
Um, but of course there are times where I'll be scared of something, of course.
Sure.
But no, I just went there with an open mind.
Wow. Wow.
And then when I
Well,
came out of there, it was like this, you going back to your question, you were asking, what was it like after I left? Well, first with all the bright lights and colors and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, everything is so like vivid. But
mhm.
also the energy that I had when I got out of there, I didn't need coffee anymore. I was like, I got full of energy. I'm like, this was like this amazing
Mm.
experience of being able to generate my own energy. And with the amount of, getting up 4 a.m., I started getting used to getting up early again. It was just like amazing. I'm like, wow, my day is so productive now. I can like actually exercise. I can have time to do more things, right?
Mhm.
And also things were not affecting me or triggering me so much. That was one of the biggest things. My car broke down, and I took it to the dealer, and then they called me from the shop and they said, oh, it's going to cost you something like, I can't remember, like $1,800 or something like that to fix this engine problem or whatever. And I'm like, okay, at that time, I didn't have the money. I had just come out of chronic illness and divorce,
Mhm.
and I was actually homeless for a little while there.
Wow.
And so at that time I was still recovering from all of that, and I didn't have the funds to pay to fix my car. But I was just like, yeah, okay, on the phone with the guy, I'm like, yeah, okay, well, give me a couple days, let me figure it out, as far as like getting the money. I was just like, yeah, okay, I'll figure it out. um
Mhm.
then like less than an hour later, he calls me back and he goes, I was just so impressed, you did not yell at me, I was just impressed you handled it. This was a big cost, and because of the way you were being,
Yeah.
he goes, I went and called corporate, and I was able to reduce this price down to $800 for you,
Wow, that's fantastic.
just because of the way I was showing up. It's
Mhm.
amazing and incredible how this one little small shift that we can make in us, and
Mhm.
how things can shift in our lives. It's
Mhm.
incredible. And, if you really look at it, this is what the bulk of this work is.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Well, this podcast I can do started for me when I first got diagnosed with a heart condition back in '06, '07, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and then in 2010,
I saw
I
that.
had
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's where I can do has come from. I can do, and so can you. And my interest with Iron Man too. He had a piece of metal in his chest as well. You've shared some of your I can do stories, Mina, and I really appreciate it. Are there any other I can do stories that you've gone through? You've gone through a lot, and you continue to progress and succeed and help other people in your life and people in the world, which is fantastic. Any other I can do story that you want to share about yourself?
Thank you so much for asking. And I want to just also applaud to you for your ability
Well,
to
thank you.
do this amazing work that you're doing now as a
Thank
result
you.
of your challenges you overcame. And
Yeah,
here you are today. So this is really great. And I'm really
thank you.
want to acknowledge you for that. And yeah, I think the most recent I can do story would be being a single parent. I think this is
Mhm.
the big one that for me, uh, I was scared. And when I first found out that I was going to, raise a child by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when I was pregnant at that time, I just decided to keep the pregnancy, and I decided to say to myself, this is going to be a really hard path and journey. But I got to put my big girl panties on and just do it. and I'll do it. I can do it.
Yeah,
Like, I just had
I
to
can
tell
do it.
myself
That's
I
right.
can do this.
That's right.
And I can't tell you, even going through the pandemic, displaced. We went from California to here to Colorado. I literally took whatever savings I had left and bought an RV, this big
Wow.
28-foot bus with a 1-year-old, and hit the road. My family thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
But I thought, yeah, you know what? I wanted to leave California because I didn't feel that it was the right place to raise my child. I grew up most of my life in California, and I knew what it was like. And hit the road, and I was determined to travel safely in this RV during the pandemic until we find the place where I could start a new life with this child. And the whole time, of course, I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I mean, after even buying the RV and driving it away, I literally bawled, crying, what am I doing? And so, of course, I had those ups and downs where I was like talking myself out of it. I can't do this anymore. But of course, there would be times where I just had to pull whatever I could out of me to say, don't give up. Don't give up. And I had to just continue to keep doing that. And that, I think, just, the fact that I had to really create a lot of strength and courage within myself to believe that I can do this. And now today, here we are. My daughter is 5 years old, and I'm back to coaching again.
Great.
And I'm feeling better than ever. I went through a lot of series of more inner work, that I had to go through. But here I am now. I have this beautiful ability to live in a beautiful place, raise a child in an amazing school. We have a wonderful community of friends and families, and we come together with all of our kids, and we have play dates and birthday parties, and I'm I have that work-life balance. I've been able to do my work while I'm also being there. Like this morning, I was volunteering at my daughter's school in her library. We have to sign up for a certain number of hours each year for volunteer service. And I was there, and it was so fun sitting there in the library, with her and her little buddies and reading a little book to them. Like, so yeah, it's incredible that, just got to keep going though. That's
right. That's right.
Gotta keep going.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that story, and that resonates with me. My mom was a single mom for many years. Mom and dad, were married for 7 years, and then he got into social drinking, which just led to a lot of other issues and physical abuse towards my mom. And
I'm sorry to hear.
you could say verbal abuse as well. So she worked hard, and she lives in the area where we are here near Dallas, and but yeah, it takes a strong woman, to persevere and to continue on. And but I learned so many valuable lessons just watching her and just seeing, we just keep taking it one day at a time. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And that means a lot. Mina, let me ask you this. The answer could be no. Any questions that I did not ask that I should have asked you while you're on this podcast?
No, I think it was all very complete. I really
Awesome.
appreciate you. You're great at interviewing, great at asking.
Oh, thank you.
The right questions. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah.
So people listen and they say, okay, I got to work with Mina. Where do they find you? How do they get connected with you?
Yeah, they can find me on my website, Mina Satori. That's M like Mary, INA, S like Sam, ATORI.com. And they can also find me on LinkedIn with my name, Mina Satori, or Facebook as well, and Instagram. So yeah,
Cool.
you can contact me and go from there.
Awesome. Mina, it's been a pleasure. I'm so thankful that we have been able to connect, and hope and
Likewise.
pray things continue to go well for you. Don't hang up. But for those who are listening, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to leave me a review and rating. And remember, I can do, so can you. Take care, and God bless.